Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of the Give 'em Heck podcast. I'm Brian, this is your host, Penny, and we would like to welcome back all of our returning viewers. We're very happy to see you again, and a very warm welcome to any new viewers who are coming in. We really hope you enjoy your stay here and get something out of the chaos of our lives. So, I want to say, as we're this close to episode 10. I can't believe how fast this has gone by.
It is. It's crazy.
Over 2 months, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, we haven't grown significantly, but we've grown enough to where, you know, we're incredibly thankful for it. Even if we reach one person, it makes all of this worth it. You know, something that people can relate to, something they can, you know, get something out of at the end of the day, look forward to at the end of the week. You know, it's an amazing experience.
It is, and I think too, to kind of go off of that is, you know, when we started this, it was for many reasons. One, because of the loss of Nina and Papa, but you know, obviously to give hope, encouragement, and change, but to help others to realize that even though we all go through things separately, really at the end of the day, we're all going through the same thing.
We're all in the same boat.
We're all in the same boat.
Just some people are getting hit with the waves harder than others. So that doesn't mean that people
or maybe
can't
quicker.
relate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, and some people get thrown overboard.
That's right. I hope not. But yeah, it's really something. I mean, we started it to, for really good reasons, and I think it's growing for even more good reasons, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are giving a lot of good feedback, and I'm really happy to hear that, because it's not just for Brian and I, for our healing process, and to let people know that, we haven't arrived, we're not perfect, and we will never be there. But you know what? You can wake up every morning knowing that there are people out there that feel the same way you do. And even though they don't talk about it or they show their emotions differently, just getting up and facing the day sometimes it is a challenge in itself. But you can do it.
Oh, yeah.
You can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that being said, we'll get right into it. So again, I just want to say, as always, that we're not doctors, psychologists, or counselors. We're not giving any medical or psychological advice. We're just simply here to discuss real life situations to give hope, encouragement, and change. And like Brian said, even if it reaches one person, and we understand that not every episode is going to speak to you. And that's okay. You know, everybody's at a different place, but we hope that if there's even one episode that speaks to you, or, you know, maybe you can glean something from every episode, you know, great. But, you know, we were finding ourselves in a place where I said to Brian one day, because we talked about doing this podcast for a long time, and I said, I think it's time. And he said, really, you do? And I said, yeah, Brian. I said, the world's a mess, and there's just so much hate and division, and people need something.
Yeah. People need something to look forward to, even if it's, you know, relatable information, you know, or relatable stories.
Right. It doesn't mean you always have to have the answer. Yeah. It doesn't always mean you even have the right thing to say. It doesn't even mean that you have the right thing to say at the right time, but sometimes it's just the knowing.
Well, you know, some of my friends tell me who go through similar situations, you know, they're like, it's good to know that I'm not the only one struggling with it.
Yeah. People don't want to feel alone.
Yeah, no.
You know, and definitely they don't want to feel hopeless.
Right.
Hopelessness is not a good place to be. So with that being said, in our last episode, we discussed failures and setbacks. We talked about what failure looks like and what it means. We talked about, does it exist, and on whose, what, and how is failure measured. We talked about how setbacks can really be, maybe they're not setbacks, but setups that bring you to a place in your life where it looks bad, but maybe it was the one thing that needed to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you know, going off of that, sometimes, you know, you can turn anything around that was bad and turn it into a good situation. I know for a fact there are some situations that have happened to me where even though it was a bad situation, it actually helped in the long term because that situation ended up something worse for somebody else to deal with. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta it's literally the definition of like rolling with the punches.
Yeah.
You know, not everything bad that happens has to be a bad thing.
That's true. That's true.
Perspective is important. Taking care of yourself is important.
Absolutely.
And putting yourself first may sound selfish,
It's not.
but at the end of the day, and I've said this in other episodes, is like you're the most important person in your life. So don't put yourself in a position where, you know, influencing the other person goes above your own well-being.
Yep.
Because that ends up putting you in a position where you're losing more and the other person is gaining.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
There's a balance.
There is a balance, and bouncing off what you're saying, Brian, like there's a coworker that came to me today, and we were talking, and you know, she felt bad because she's like, I can't talk to everybody about what I'm going through, and I said, and you know what? It's okay. You don't have to. You don't have to talk to everybody because, and I've said this to you before. Be careful who you share your tears with, right? Because not everybody's going to support you the way you need to be supported.
Yeah.
So it is okay to find the right support and to know that there are certain people that you can talk to. And, you know, I told her, don't feel bad about what you're going through because maybe your situation looks really bad right now, but maybe in the long run, it'll work out for you somehow.
Well, I know sometimes, like you said, you know, be careful who you share your tears with. I can sit here and say with absolute certainty that, you know, you can empty your heart out to somebody and they'll do one of two things. They'll either empathize with you and help you grow, or they will take advantage
they'll destroy you
of your vulnerability.
Yeah. And I told her that. And another thing I told her is, and she felt bad, you know, for that, but I was like, you know, you have to learn to take care of yourself because nobody else is going to. And like you said, Brian, it's not being selfish.
No.
Because no one's going to take care of you.
Yeah, being selfish is like isolating yourself, putting yourself in a position where you care about nothing and no one.
Yeah.
Taking care of yourself and putting yourself first is like, I'm willing to be there for you, but not at my own expense.
Well, yeah, and we talked about this. It's putting your guard up a little bit, you know, and you have to. You know, and I told her, don't apologize for the way you feel, but just note that your feelings are yours. You don't have to apologize for them, but note that you have to take care of yourself. You have to look after yourself because no one's going to. And that it simply comes down to that. It really does. Because unfortunately, you know, the old saying is, treat others the way you would like to be treated.
Yeah, that's not always true. And I mean, that's a double-sided coin, you know, because I've often heard people say that to me, like somebody will be nasty to me, and then they're like, they expect me to be nice to them, and they've used that line before. Like some people that I've talked to have just been constantly nasty and rude, and then, you know, I snap at them.
Yeah, and they don't like it.
And they don't like it.
Oh, they don't like it.
They
do not like to be called on the carpet.
Yeah, and then they're like, well, you need to treat others the way you'd want to be treated. And I'm like, that works both ways, dude.
It does.
You're showing, like, I'm being nice to you and you're being mean to me. Well, maybe I should start being mean to you. And then they
don't like it.
They lose their minds over it. Like, and I'm not talking about, like, getting more aggressive. There was one person I was talking to a couple of years ago, and this story has always stuck with me. They were like that. They were kicked from our group, but they were like that. They were nasty, just constantly like angry, just a very angry individual. And I had enough. I'm usually the aggressive person in my group when it comes to like putting an end to, you know, nasty behavior. And I pulled them aside. I was like, what's your problem? Like I was calm, like what's your problem? And they were like, well, I'm just getting sick and tired of so-and-so and all this. And I'm like, and you think snapping at everybody is going to fix the problem?
Right. No.
And I said, one of two things is going to happen at this point. Either you can leave or you can smarten up and act your age. Because, I mean, this guy was getting mad about literally the smallest
Nothing.
things. And, you know, you could sit here and say, well, maybe they were struggling with something, maybe they were miserable. People tried to help him.
Yeah.
And that's a good example of some things we talked about in prior episodes. You know, some people just don't want help.
Right.
Some people just like to be miserable. I don't know why, but, you know, some people just like it. And eventually it just got to a point where everyone started treating him the exact way he was treating us. And he literally, like, melted down, like, not got angry. He literally, like, I can't handle this. And he left. We had him removed. And I don't know why people are like that.
I don't either. Like, everybody has bad days, bad moments, a bad long time, whatever that means. And everybody's bad is determined by whatever. But you said, like, he was yelling at everybody. Let me ask you this. Is there really a time or an excuse that works, Brian, for that type of behavior? Like, everybody...
Well,
I mean, if you want to be angry, we can all be angry about something, is what I'm trying to say. So is it an excuse? Because it's definitely not a reason.
No, it's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. I don't care what anybody... If people vent their anger by putting it out on other people that don't deserve it or weren't part of it, then they're just a miserable human being who just want to bring other people down with them. And no, it's not an excuse.
Yeah, there's no...
Because that's what happened when I pulled him aside and asked him what's going on. He kept saying all of the, you know, it was so-and-so made me mad, and, you know, this is going on, that's going on. It's not... That doesn't give you the right.
Right. Exactly.
To start making other people upset who had nothing to do with your circumstance. Like, do you really think this is okay? He couldn't answer me.
No, because he knows
But,
deep
you know,
down it's not.
And he never changed.
Really?
Even to this day. I mean, I have eyes and ears everywhere through my social media, so people tell me stuff all the time that I don't even want to know. But, you know, people tell me all the time, oh, you remember that person? Yeah, I remember them. Yeah, they're still miserable. They're still the exact same way after 2 years.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's the person that's going to grow up to be old and alone.
Yeah, that's going to be...
But they did it to themselves.
They did. They got no one to blame. They're going to be the one in the nursing home yelling at everybody.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, did it get you anywhere? Like, why? Why do you want to be that?
Some people like it.
I don't know. I can't wrap my head around that, but it's true. There are some people like that. Now, whether they like it, I don't know. But maybe they can't get out of their rut.
Well, the problem is they look for the relief in all the wrong places.
Okay.
They feel good when they're in that position of power. When they feel they can just step over everybody. It's like a relief for them, you know? It's like getting a dopamine hit from, you know, looking at you know, stuff you like online or buying stuff. You know, it's that rush.
That moment.
Yeah, it's all about the moment. They don't look long term. They don't look how... I was just going to say that. Yeah. They don't look at how here and now is what matters, not what the future is going to bring. So they take that momentary pleasure and they're like, this makes me feel better about myself. I'm going to keep doing it. And before you know it, they have nothing left.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're just digging yourself out of a hole then.
No, fine. I'll argue you're digging yourself into a deeper one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not getting you anywhere, that's for sure. So our setbacks can be setups to move us further. We discussed how each step in life takes us to the next step to meet our opportunities. And there was a quote that Brian and I had found after the podcast last week, and I said, we should have said that. That's a good quote. So I just want to put that in right now because it's a really good quote that went well with last week, but it's also a quote I think that can keep you going with any podcast that we do, and it is, winners are not people who never fail, but people who never quit. Because you're going to fail, whether it's in the perspective of you or someone else.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. But it's, like I said, maybe it's not a failure. Maybe it's a setback that's causing a setup.
Well, and kind of going off of that, I was listening to a speech that was being held on one of my groups there, and of course it was a large group. It was like 20, 50 people in there, but we were all silent, just listening to like one or two people talk, and I was enjoying it up to a certain part.
Really?
Yeah. He was like, because he was trying to have the same kind of conversation or conversations that we've had when it comes to failure. Like that was the topic of that week.
Oh, wow.
And he got on like this position of like, the way that I interpreted it was, you are going to fail, try harder.
Oh, yeah, no.
And I'm just sitting here like...
There's no such thing.
Well, I'm sitting here like, if you tell somebody who's failed to try harder, that puts them in a position where they feel that they're never good enough.
Well, it's unattainable.
Exactly.
Because where's that marker? Where is it?
Well, that's the thing.
I've been looking for it my whole life.
Because like he was naming off all of these examples where he's like, I struggle with this, I struggle with that, and I have to keep doing better and keep striving. And I'm like, why? I wanted to talk so bad in that chat. You have no idea.
I bet you
but I'm sitting here like, there's nothing wrong with wanting to improve yourself, but understanding and being self-aware of your own faults is what makes you human. You know what I'm saying? It brings you to a position of like, I know I'll never be good enough, but I'm good enough as I am.
Well, yeah, because to what demise?
Yeah. And that's what I mean when I say self-aware. I'm not saying mean people are good enough for the way they are. That's not what I'm saying. No, if you're
mean, you need to smarten up.
Exactly. There's, again, perspective.
Yeah.
Context.
Right.
But I'm talking about your average person who understands that they're flawed, who understands that they have struggles, who understands that they deal with stuff. It's not about you're struggling, get better. No. It's that you're struggling and that's okay. Stop pushing yourself to achieve something that you yourself cannot change. Because even though the person next to you can improve themselves much better than you can, that doesn't make them better than you. That just makes them different.
Oh, Brian, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, don't put yourself to somebody else's standards. It's like I said in a couple of podcasts ago, my convictions are not for sale. Same with yours. You struggle with different things than I do. Does that make me better or vice versa? No, it makes me human. It makes us unique. So we feed off of each other to help each other grow in places we never could before.
Yeah, because your strengths might be my weaknesses, and my weaknesses might be your strength, and vice versa. And here we keep going, right?
Exactly.
That's why we pick each other up.
Yeah, where nobody's perfect.
Right.
We all put our pants on the same way in the morning. It doesn't matter what you struggle with versus what I struggle with, because you're still perfect in your imperfection.
Oh, that's good. I love that.
Yeah.
And doesn't it take some of the pressure off?
Well, it does, and it's not a matter of like waking up in the morning with the intention to do bad things.
Right.
We all would like to wake up in a world where there's nothing bad going on. But when you come to a position of understanding that bad things will happen, you will fail. There will be things that happen around you that you cannot control. But you know what? You as a person have not diminished in value because of it. So stop putting yourself in a position where you feel you need to keep pushing harder to be perfect in somebody else's eyes.
So good.
Oh, I left that chat.
I bet you did.
I was going to blow up. I was like, you are giving everybody in this chat, like I said, it was like 50, 60 people more or less who were just sitting there agreeing with it. And I'm like,
what's going on?
Let me know how your change is going at the end of the week. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You can sit here and point out every single flaw you have and strive to be better, but you're still going to fail. You might be able to go 1 or 2 days and achieve the idea of perfection that you have. But that third day, that's the false idea these people have, is that they can go days without doing something wrong, and then when they finally do fail, it's going to hit them even harder.
Yeah, and then how do you pick yourself out of that rut?
It's like a difference between I'm going to try better versus I'm going to do better.
Yeah. Trying and doing are two different things, aren't they?
Yeah, because if you try, you're not as disappointed when you do fail.
Right, because you're still human.
But when you say you're going to do better and you fail, it brings you to a position of like, I'm never going to be good enough.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's my rant.
Oh my gosh. Podcast over. No,
Yeah, right. I would have absolutely.
I would have loved to have been there.
Oh, I wanted to. I wanted to so bad because I'm like, you're giving the wrong message, my dude.
And these poor people.
Yeah. They literally were all like, yes, you're right. And I'm like, stop giving yourself the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
The first thing I would have said when I popped into that VC and I heard that, I would have been like, you're going to fail.
Oh, it's a guarantee, isn't it?
100%.
Yeah. Well, number one, even if you don't mean to, the thing is this. You are not in control of everything. I'm not going to say you're not in control. You're in control of nothing. I'm not going to say that because obviously there are some things you can control, but you're not in control of everything. So what are you going to do with that?
Well, that's the problem with the idea of achieving some level of perfection, or achieving some higher level of like conquering your problems. I don't care what your problem is. You're going to face that problem again. And even if you beat it the first day, the second day, the third day, one of those days you're going to fail.
That's some part of it, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like one of the guy was it was in a different group, but we were talking about a similar situation, and he was like, I've been struggling with lying a lot, man. And I'm like, we all struggle with things. Like, I was empathetic.
Yeah.
But I didn't try to tell him it's okay. Don't beat yourself. No, I said, yeah. But that's life. And he's like, what's this approach? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, no one's ever talked to me like that before. Like, no one's ever tried to tell me that my faults are okay. And I'm like, lying is not a good thing, my dude. But let's assume in a perfect world, you conquer your problem with lying, something else is going to charge right in replacement.
Oh, there's always going to be something to replace it, right?
Exactly. And that's what I was trying to tell him. It's like, you can do your best to conquer the problem. Do whatever it is you feel you need to do. Because obviously I wasn't a therapist, or I'm not a therapist, but like, I kept telling him, like, don't feel bad for being human. And I guess it depends on what you're lying about. And he gave me examples. He just likes to make up fabulous stories, or, lie about things to make himself look good. And I'm like, okay, well, there's obviously an underlying issue here of like, have you never felt accepted?
Yeah. There's something going on.
But my point is after the conversation, he felt a lot better because I approached it from a perspective of, I'm not going to talk to you to try and convince you to do better. I'm going to try and convince you that it's okay to fail.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's aware.
By the end of it, he was. I don't think he was as aware of it when we started talking. Mm-hmm. It's like the more we talked, the more aware he got. And he's like, wow, I've never had anybody tell it to me like that before. And I'm like, don't put yourself in a position where if you never conquer this, that you're any less of a human for it.
Right.
And don't put yourself in a position where you feel that you need to conquer it because there's always going to be something else to replace it. Mm-hmm. We all struggle with things. I'm not saying don't strive for it, but don't expect it because it puts you in a position where you will collapse in on yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And time, right? We've talked about time. Time may be one of those things that'll take care of it for him, or at least be part of it.
Right, part of it.
The
thing that he liked the most is that, and I think this is where I was like where I said he had a problem with feeling accepted. By the end of it, he said that I reached him in a way no one else had.
Wow.
And that right there is the kicker.
Yeah. Because now he knows he has support. And sometimes that's all people need to know, Brian, is that they have somebody there, not to give them the answers, but to just be the support, the person that will just listen. It doesn't even mean you have to have the answers. It doesn't even mean you have to say anything. Sometimes it's just being that person. Like when I had talked to you about my cousin after Mom passed away, there was times that she never said anything. She didn't have to. It was just her being there. It was the presence, right?
Yeah.
Of knowing that, of having someone. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you're going to laugh when you find out what...
No way.
I'm going to say this, okay, guys? Brian and I never discuss what we're going to talk about in the podcast. And I know I've told you guys this before. Because I asked him one time, I said, do you want us to discuss what we're going to talk about first before we do our podcast? And he said, no. And I said, well, why not? He said, because it'll be too fake. It'll be too made up, because now I'm going to know what I have to say. It's going to be more scripted. And he said, and I don't want it to be that way.
I want it to be more, not necessarily, well, I mean, I guess a little ad lib, but I like to give my perspective on things in a more organic way.
Organic. Yeah. You don't want it to be artificial.
Yeah. I don't want to know what the message is about, because to me it's more exciting
to not know.
Yeah. It's like pulling back the curtain, you know.
I do.
Seeing that brand new car.
Here's your new car. Okay, so that was last week's episode. Wow. Okay, so in today's episode, we're going to discuss, I can't believe you, understanding your self-worth versus recognizing your potential.
Bro.
I can't. I know.
It's not the first time I've done that. There's been a couple of episodes where I've kind of like rambled about what the podcast episode was about. No one's going to believe us.
I hate you.
It's okay. I hate me too.
Oh, God, no. No, you don't. So I have a lot of questions for you tonight, though.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. So buckle up, Buttercup. Okay.
This seat has no seatbelts.
Yeah, I know. So my first question to you is, what does self-worth mean to you?
Now, when you ask that, do you mean like, what do I see as self-worth about myself, or just about in general?
Let's take it from in general. It might get to more personal, but let's just say in general.
Self-worth is realizing the value of yourself above everything else, and realizing that failure or problems or what have you doesn't diminish the value of who you are as an individual, the importance of the individual, because everybody has something new to bring to the table. So it's like, you know, you can have 100 people standing in a room and they're all of equal value, but that value is way above anything that we can comprehend.
Wow.
That's how I perceive it.
How does a person know or recognize their self-worth? Now, if you want to take that to a personal perspective, Brian, you can, because it might be easier to explain it from a personal perspective.
Oh, excuse me. I guess the way I kind of recognized my self-worth is noticing how people interacted with me, the things that I've done for people and how it's changed them, or how unique my opinions are. I'm not saying that my opinions are always right. I'm just saying, you know, when you have multiple people coming to me and saying, I've never had anyone explain it that way before, it makes me realize that there's something about me that people like.
Right.
Or hate. But that doesn't diminish the value of myself.
So basically, when someone recognizes their self-worth, it's basically, in a nutshell, what an individual can bring to the table, because we all bring something.
Yeah,
right?
and I'm not saying that if a person is hiding in the back and never talks or never says anything, that person is of any less value. I'm saying that that person has something that no one else has.
Right.
So instead of belittling that person, hang on to the potential that that person has because only that person has it.
Right. Because we all add a piece to the puzzle, right?
And it's like somebody else told me, he's like, well, what if both of us have the same value or the same talent or whatever? And I'm like, well, you can still fill in the gaps. Mm-hmm. You know, think of it like a puzzle, like a huge puzzle piece.
Yeah.
All the puzzles are shapes, but put them together and they can make a work of art.
Because not one individual has all the answers.
Right.
And
it's like one of my friends and I, you know, we see eye to eye on a lot of things, but we also bring different perspectives to the table.
Yeah.
That make both of us think, you know, but yet you put us in a room full of people and we're basically the same person.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So.
Yep. So what does potential mean to you? And you can take that from a personal perspective or however you want.
I think potential for me personally goes alongside purpose.
Oh.
Like finding the purpose of something you enjoy doing or something that you're good at or whatever the case may be. Finding that potential and building off of it is what helps you find a higher level of that, you know, a higher level of that purpose, a higher level of that potential. You just keep building off of it.
So how does someone find their potential?
Well, it's different for everyone. I think, and again, I'm only going to use myself as an example.
Yep.
The way I talk, I don't hold back.
I know, you get that from your mother.
I don't hold back with my opinions. I'm very upfront about everything I talk about.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to go against the grain.
That's good.
And when you have that perspective, like my personality with that, it makes my purpose and my potential more visible to me.
Yeah.
I think that's why I enjoy, you know, talking. You know, I like making people think.
Yeah.
I like bringing people to a different level of thought.
Well, you're very intellectual, that's for sure.
I try to be.
I mean, you're a lot like me in that way, as far as you're not afraid to just say whatever needs to be said. I wasn't like that, though, at your age. For me, it got to be that way as I got older, because I got old and tired. You know what I mean? You just get to that point where you just, I don't want to say you don't care, but you just don't care. Does that make sense? You know, I remember one time Papa saying something and I'm like, Dad, my gosh. And he's like, listen, I've earned the right to say that. In other words, what he was saying is at his age, it isn't going to matter anymore. I wish I could have been more like you at your age.
You know, I'm the same way, and I approach it from a different perspective. It's not really so much that I've earned it, you know, but I think it's more of like life is too short to sugarcoat things.
That's so true.
It would lead to more regrets if you don't branch out when you feel you need to. Because at the end of the day, you do what you do, and you only live it once.
A lot of people don't like that, though.
A lot of people are in different levels of advancement. You know, a lot of people feel that maybe they're not in the right time, the right place, the right opportunity, you know, and before you know it, that opportunity's gone.
It's true.
You know, you seize the moment. It doesn't mean you act prematurely, you know. It just means that, you know, take advantage of what you have.
True.
It's like living life to the fullest.
Wow.
And it's not a do what feels good in the moment, because that can lead to problems. But it's more like if you have the opportunity to be yourself, essentially, then take it.
Right.
Don't hide yourself behind a curtain thinking that I'll have a better chance.
Yeah. And when I say a lot of people don't like it, I'll use myself as an example, is that because I've been more outspoken, I have found in my later years that a lot of people either, this is where I find people with me, and you might find it too, is they either love me or they hate me. But I think
Same.
a lot of it is because they either, one, they don't know how to take me, or they think I'm being mean when I say what's true, or they feel like they're being attacked.
Yeah.
If they love me, it's actually the opposite. They love the brazenness of it. Like you just said, though, Brian, I'm not stupid about it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't go around tearing people down. I'm not saying that. But in the moment, some things just need to be said.
Yeah.
You know? So my next question is, do you think self-worth and potential are connected, and how?
Self-worth and potential are connected. Yes, I think they are connected. Because, though, like I said earlier, the more you advance your potential, the more you start to become more aware of your self-worth. You start to come to a different position of like, wow, I'm really, really happy doing this. It's not that I'm good at it all the time, but I feel fulfilled doing it. And then you realize that this is the thing that completes you. And it puts you in a place of contentment with yourself, or gives you that opportunity or that advancement to grow as a person.
It's almost like finding yourself, isn't it?
It really is.
Like that one moment you do that one thing or say that one thing, and you actually shock yourself.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing with it too, and you can use any kind of example with it, whether it's a hobby or anything like that, anything that advances your potential or something you enjoy doing. When you can do one of two things with it. You can do like what I do, and I share it with other people, right? Like, I like talking to people. Or you can be selfish and keep it to yourself. It's like a master camper. They can either find purpose and enjoyment and potential with their skills in camping,
right?
And they can share that experience with others to fulfill them. Or they can just keep it all to themselves and just say, I'm just gonna, you need help camping. Well, I'm not the person to talk to.
Right.
And what leads to more fulfillment?
Helping others. Always.
Exactly. You're sharing that experience with people. And it's like that VC I was in. Or for those of you that don't know what VC is, it stands for voice chat. You'd be surprised how many people don't know that.
I didn't.
So if I ever say VC, it stands for voice chat. But it was like that VC the other night. He started good, pointing out his flaws. But then he went to a whole perspective of like, I can do better. And it's like, you have just destroyed that house of cards you built yourself. You have ruined the potential to bring people to a position of personal acceptance by telling them that they can do better and that what they're doing isn't good enough.
Yeah. In a roundabout way, he did.
He did. It's not even... He straight... If he could have said what he actually said, he would have said, I failed at all this stuff and I keep struggling with it. I know I can do better, but I never will, and that makes me imperfect.
How about just being human?
Imagine.
So I believe people don't always understand self-worth, like your personal self-worth, but they may see your potential. Do you think that's true, Brian?
Other people?
Yeah, so like, I'll use you for an example. So maybe people don't always understand your self-worth, but they may see your potential. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I can see people doing that. I think some people have done that to me before. They'll be like, you're really, really good at that. There's potential in that, but then they never do anything to
build on that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they don't really ever understand.
They don't realize the specific, like, gold mine that they have.
Yes.
And
I think employers, I'm going to use them for an example, are the worst at it. Because they see potential, and they may help you to strive in that a little bit, but they never take you to the next level. And I think that's where the detriment is because when you don't take someone to the next level, you have diminished their self-worth. in your eyes. You know what I mean? Not
Yeah.
that they've lost their self-worth, but to take somebody to the next level, you're not only building on their potential, but you're feeding their self-worth.
Yeah. No, it's exactly that. It's feeding it. You know, you can see a good employee and you can say, you're doing a really good job, and then walk away and it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Or you could say, you're doing a real good job. Let me give you something to
More.
show my appreciation for it.
Yeah.
And it builds that encouragement.
Absolutely. So, do you think it's important that others understand your self-worth and or recognize your potential?
I think it depends on the individual. Personally, for me, I don't really have an issue with how people think about me. Because even if I tell them the truth or I'm blunt with them and they hate me for it, it doesn't diminish me. That's a you problem. But for some people, having that positive feedback is a big thing, you know? And I think there's some underlying issues with that. I think that shows the lack of self-worth. It shows the lack of self-appreciation because they need constant positive feedback, you know?
Yeah.
But then you just got to get to a point in your life where you're like, I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I know I'm awesome. You know? And that's not a prideful thing. That's recognizing, being self-aware, realizing your self-worth.
Well, isn't it their loss?
Oh, of course. It always falls back on them because they're missing out on something. Something that they haven't had, or something that they'll never have, or something that they've never experienced.
Right.
So who's more at fault?
Right.
Definitely ain't me.
Yeah, because I think if more people would recognize people's self-worth, would recognize people's potential and build on that, not only would they find that we're really all not that different, but can you imagine how much more people could strive? How much happier people would be? Because there would be less tearing down, right?
Well, yeah.
You know, because why do you need to tear people down? Well, most people do that because they lack something in their life, like you said, right?
That's why I always say, and it goes into the example of like when you're going through a bad time, keep an eye on who stays with you, because you'll see who the positives are and who the negatives are.
Yep. Yep. Do you think it's important that others understand your self-worth and potential? And along with that, what that question I just asked you, Brian, is how do you live if they don't? Because people can be very judgmental in their expectations of you. So if people don't understand or see your self-worth or potential, how do you live with that? Because, again, like I said, people can be very judgmental. Like you said, I don't care what people think of me. Okay, I understand that. But for some people, that's not easy to take,
Right.
because they can't handle people not liking them.
Right.
So how do you live when people don't see your potential or understand your self-worth?
I think that person who can't deal with the concept of somebody not accepting them for who they are, I think they need something to happen in their lives that brings them to a place where they are okay with the people who walk away. Like it takes something to happen to bring a person to that point. Because some people live their whole lives and they can't, grasp the concept of people not caring about them. So there's something that either happened in the past that brought them to that point, or it's something that hasn't happened yet. Like they've either been coddled or sometimes it's too much positive feedback.
It's true.
Because sometimes it's like
sometimes
that person
life sucks.
Well, those people that live their lives with just nothing but positives, and then that one bad thing happens and they can't handle it.
Yeah.
They can't understand it.
Right.
And like I said, I think people have to come to a certain place. So how do you live with it? I can tell you how I live with it, but obviously I don't speak for everybody.
Right.
But how I live with it, I just don't care. That's literally just the fun. That it's that simple, really.
And I know he's not lying, because I'm with him a lot, so I know he's not kidding.
Yeah,
and I'm going to use.
Don't care.
I will give you an example of, like, for me, when you say, Brian, something bad has to happen, or something has to happen in order for them to come to that place to realize it, right? I remember one time when Dad was in the military, and we got really close to this couple. He was in the military, Dad was in the military, so his wife and I got really, really close. And I remember the day that they got orders to move. And I know this is going to sound stupid to some people because it's going to sound like, oh my gosh, that upset your world. Well, let me tell you, not only were we very close, but I never really lost a friend. Do you know what I'm saying? And I remember when they got orders and they were leaving, I was totally, totally crushed. I mean, I just didn't know how I was going to deal with this. And she was going far away. It wasn't like we could get in the car and go visit. It wasn't going to happen, right? Here's my point. So I remember one day I was crying about it, and your dad says, you know, Penny, you're going to have to move on. The whole point is this: people come and go.
Yep.
So you talk about something bad happening. Okay, there's worse things. Okay, this is what I'm trying to say. There's worse things. I understand that.
Yeah.
But to me, in that moment, that was bad. But when he said that to me, that was the moment that brought me to the place that I was like, okay.
Everybody goes through something different. And that's what I'm trying to get at, is that it's hard for me to tell you one simple thing that has to bring a person to that place where they don't care about the bad things that happen and they just focus on themselves. Mm-hmm. There's not really one thing that brings you to that point. Mm-hmm. I'd have to say the biggest thing, and I've said it countless times in just this one episode, but being self-aware.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that, that's really what it boils down to, is just realizing your own limitations.
Mm-hmm. And it's okay, right?
It is. And anybody that says it isn't is lying to you, or lying to themselves.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
I mean, what are you going to do? And like when your dad said that to me, I was really mad at him because I thought he was being mean. But the truth of it is it really made me look at life different.
It will. But at the end, to me, when I came to that moment of self-realization, it made life more fulfilling.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's how you handle it, right?
Yeah, that's how you handle it, but realizing that, bad things are going to happen and it's okay.
Yeah. So what are you going to do in the moment?
What are you going to do? You can either do one of two things. Either you can continue to feel sorry for yourself or feel sorry for the situation and beat yourself up over it, or you can get up and keep walking.
Yeah.
And it's literally just that easy. Like, bad things happen to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
If anything, that is the pure definition of selfishness, if you continue to carry the weight of that problem with you. Because then you're like, woe is me. Well, what gives you the right to carry a weight that, I have too?
Wow.
That's the epitome of selfishness, is looking at yourself as if, it can go both ways. Selfishness can be, I'm the greatest thing on planet Earth, praise me, or, woe is me, I'm struggling with life. Join the club. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We all go through heartache. We all go through loss. We all go through struggles, trials, and temptations. Does that make you better than me or vice versa? Nope. Mm-hmm. So get off your high horse and walk like the rest of us.
Yeah. Sad but true, right?
Yeah. Like, it's not belittling somebody's problems.
No.
It's saying we're all in this together.
But doesn't it make you a stronger person when you finally, realize it, become self-aware, but change that situation?
I think it makes you a stronger person when you're willing to accept the fact that you have bad things happening to you and you hold your hand to the person next to you. Self-sacrifice. It's literally like dying to yourself.
Yeah.
Because it can go putting my burden onto somebody else and watching that same person carry that burden with you.
Mm-hmm. Well, it puts you on an equal playing field, right? Because bad things happen. Your bad thing might be worse than mine, but it's knowing that we're going through this together, and that change could bring greater things though for you, right? Because when you finally say, okay, yeah, I know it's bad, but this is what I need to do to change that situation. It's not going to be fun, but it's necessary. It's necessary. It has to be done.
It's like one person said an example to me, and I carried it because it was a good quote. Or it wasn't a quote of anything. It was literally something he said, and I adopted it. But he said, one person's cut may be deeper than somebody else's, but the scar that remains looks the same as mine. Wow. You see the point?
I do. That's good. Well, we talked about that before, right? We all have scars.
Yeah, it's true. You can have a cut, like a problem that happened to you, metaphorically speaking. You could have a cut that's 1 inch deep, and the person next to you could have a cut that's 3 inches deep. Mm-hmm. And the one with the less problem may heal faster. But by the end of it, when both people heal, their scars look the same.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. So do you think it's okay to not always live up to other people's standards or expectations?
100%.
So, I want your input, and I'm going to give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I'm coming from, and then you can give me an example for yourself.
Okay.
So I remember the day Nana passed away in the hospital. I was the last one in the room with her, and I said my goodbyes. And I remember as I was walking out of the room thinking to myself, I wonder what everyone else is going to think about how I handled this situation with Nana. Mm-hmm. And I got both types of feedback. I got feedback from people saying that there were things that I should have done differently or I could have done more. There were other people that said to me, you did all you could. Mm-hmm. So here's my example of what I'm saying. So here's my question again. Do you think it's okay to not always live up to other people's standards or expectations?
Yes.
Because I couldn't do any more.
They're not walking in your shoes, are they? They're not wearing your skin, are they? They're not in your head, are they? Of course it's okay to not live to other people's standards. Anybody that lives life expecting the person next to them to do the things they would have done or do things differently is somebody who is, number one, incredibly insecure with themselves, and somebody who has no idea of the other person's struggle. I don't care who you are, and I'll say that to anybody's face. Like, how dare you tell me I could do things differently? Again, you only live life once. So don't put yourself in my shoes, and if you do, never talk to me again. It's a good thing I wasn't around when that happened.
I know.
That happens a lot. And you tell me these stories all the time of somebody that said something to you, and I'm wondering to myself, I wonder if these people are avoiding me. Like, they take advantage of the fact that I'm not around.
Right.
But, yeah, no. Back to, being serious. Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, how do you live up to other people's expectations?
You don't.
Okay, maybe you would have done it differently, but you know what? At the end of the day, I did what I had to.
Well, no, it's not even that you did what you had to do, it's that you did all you could. It's not like you foresee the future. It's not like you're like, okay, in 10 minutes this is going to happen. These people are telling me the feedback of it. Okay, let me adjust accordingly. No. You live life in the moment. And anybody who says they can do something that you could have done something differently, well then you tell me how it is when you go through it.
Yeah, right.
Even if it's somebody who was going through the exact same issue at the exact same time, if that person looks at you and said you could have done it different, it's best you not say any more and walk away.
Oh, there were times I walked away. I had
I'm
to.
not even just talking about you.
I had to.
I'm
Oh,
not
you
just,
mean them?
yeah,
Yeah.
them. They're the ones with the problem, not you. If anything, that's a very good example of projection of the lack of self-worth that they have, because they feel they could have done something better, and it makes them feel better about themselves.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, no, to answer your question specifically, no, it doesn't matter what other people think.
You just have to do what you need to do.
Or do what you can.
I like that better.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can't do what you want to do, right?
If people could always do what they wanted to do, life would be perfect. But you know what? Not everything is in your control. And that's okay.
Well, it has to be, right?
Yeah.
Because it is.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not that it has to be, it is what it is.
Right.
It is what it is.
Right. So I guess my encouragement to people tonight is, this is what I'll say, from the things that I've learned, he's learned, we've learned together, is believe in yourself and be patient with yourself. You know, you said, and I think it was in the last podcast, Brian, you said everybody has a niche. They just haven't found it yet.
Niche, but yeah.
Okay, niche. So doesn't that have to do a lot with, maybe more with potential than self-worth, but isn't that really what it comes down to?
Purpose, self-worth, self-realization, being self-aware, yeah, it all correlates.
Yeah, because I think too, when you find your self-worth, I'll say it this way, when you understand your self-worth and you know your potential, I think it will cause you to do things that you didn't think you'd ever do.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment when you do those things, and they might be scary, they might be uncomfortable at the moment, in the long run, I think you'll look back one day and say, you know what? It was hard. It was scary. It was all those negative things. But at the end of the day, I did the right thing.
Yeah.
And you can even say that for a job, right?
You can say it for anything.
I mean, maybe you haven't found your ideal job in life, if you want to call it that. So.
Yeah. And the person who can't find their puzzle piece to fit in, that's when you need to come to a position of like, I need to do something to help me realize my self-worth. You need to find yourself at that point, because at that point you're just living life through the motions.
Oh, wow. So they're trying.
You're squandering yourself. You're taking advantage of yourself.
So are they looking for happiness that's not there? Or are they looking for something that's, maybe I shouldn't say happiness, but maybe they're just looking for something that they're trying to attain that they'll never find?
I would say they're not trying to find it.
Really?
I think they're just trying to kid themselves. That's what I mean when I said they were squandering their own self-worth. They're not pushing themselves in the right way.
So what do you do?
That's when you have to take a step back and breathe.
And do a redo?
You're essentially resetting yourself, yeah. And for some people, that can mean many different things.
Mm-hmm.
It's just at some point you have to say enough going through the motions and actually make the effort. Not make an effort to change, but make the effort to realize your self-worth. Realize you are better than that. I don't deserve this. I can do better for myself. Stuff like that.
I see. Wow. So I think that's where we're going to wrap it up tonight, unless you have any more to throw at me. Holy cow. So I just want to say this in closing, that know that your best is always good enough. If there's one thing I've learned through this 3-year journey, is that even when people criticize, you have to come to a place where you have to say, maybe I didn't do everything right, whatever that means. Maybe in their eyes, it wasn't the right thing to do. But at the end of the day, I did my best, and that has to be good enough.
No, it's not that it has to be. It is. There is no has to. It is. So don't let other people dictate you. Don't let other people project on you. Don't let people tell you what you can or cannot do, better or worse. You are who you are. Accept your flaws, accept your mistakes, and walk together, not against each other.
That's good, Brian. That's really good. So that's where we're going to wrap it up tonight. Again, we can be found on many different platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and many more. Please share, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that other people will be able to find us and maybe get that little bit of encouragement that they need for hope and change. And our email is givemhec@gmail.com. That's GIVEMHEC@gmail.com. And again, send comments. We want to hear from you. We'd love to hear from you, good, bad, or ugly, like I always say. Give us ideas. Let us know if there's something that you've heard in these podcasts that really spoke to you or didn't. It's okay. However you want to do it is fine. So that will be it for tonight, and we hope to see you on our next podcast.
Absolutely. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.